Hello, everybody. It is me, Lava Captain 2000 here. And welcome to the last video of 2021. Something that I wanted to do, and the last end of year video that I did, but ultimately never got the chance to do, was I wanted to do something of a reflection on the year that was. I thought about it doing it for 2020. Around the time that I was playing Battlefront, but I decided not to do it. However, I am going to do it here for two reasons. Number one, 2021 was a big year for me. And two, it's also, I feel more official. I feel more like a YouTuber now than I was then. And three, I have a new microphone and I want to test it, because why not? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll through all of the LPs that I did this year, and we're going to talk about them on what I believe to be their ranking. How much I enjoyed them, thoughts on how the production went, which ones I liked the most, which ones I liked the least, stuff like that. There's 5 of them that I would consider like main LPs, and then there's the 6th one, the joke LP, that we'll talk about pretty soon. So between the 12 months of the year, between December 31st, 2020 to December 31st, 2021, I played through mainly 5 different games. I also played through quite a lot of VR stuff, with one of those games getting the official classification as a main LP title. The 6 games I played were Little Nightmares 2, Super Hot VR, BioShock Infinite, Resident Evil 7, Just Shapes and Beats, and Days of Heroes D-Day. I will not be including Lego Pirates of the Caribbean in this because it's still going on. Although, as a little bit of a side note, I'm not sure when the extras videos will be coming out, because as of writing this, as of me saying this, I've beaten the game, but getting through the mini kits and the compass items is a living hell. So, yeah, that might be on hiatus. I'm not sure if I will bolt that to the end of the project, because it's a slog getting through them. So, now that I've done rambling on, let's talk about the LP in February, because I had a 1-month break from main LPs in January. Little Nightmares 2. I played Little Nightmares 2. Honestly, I think Little Nightmares 2 had more hype in my channel than BioShock Infinite did, which is saying something. BioShock Infinite and Little Nightmares 2 were both LPs that I planned on doing back in 2020, and I actually stated this multiple times. Actually, I didn't think I stated it for Infinite, because I didn't think it would take me as long to get through it. So I played Little Nightmares 2 on my channel around the same time as a bunch of the other big-time YouTubers. And that's actually the reason why I haven't played Security Breach, because after seeing how that plays, it's definitely on the docket now. I didn't think Security Breach would be the game that it was, so I'm definitely, it's on that block of games that I was like, I absolutely would play this for my channel. However, I learned that it might have been my least favorite LP of the year, because there was really nothing that separated it from the others in a lot of ways. Little Nightmares 1, I did way better. And the difference between Little Nightmares 1 and Little Nightmares 2 is Little Nightmares 1 was done in chapters, and Little Nightmares 2 was done in parts. And I think that's really all it took. Even though I had a lot of fun with Little Nightmares 2, because Little Nightmares 1 and 2 are 2 of my favorite games, I feel like I could have done the game more justice for what it was. Another thing that I think hindered it was the fact that because so many other big-time YouTubers were playing it around that time, a lot of other YouTubers that played it were just better at editing. And of course, I've improved my editing game. Resident Evil 7, Just Shapes and Beats, and Days of Heroes D-Day all are testaments to that, especially Resident Evil 7. But back in February, I wasn't that great of an editor yet, because I was just now getting used to the concept of like editing full-length videos, and because of that, I just felt like there was there was a lot that could have been done better. That's my thoughts on Little Nightmares. From Little Nightmares 2, I did an April Fool's style joke because I finished Little Nightmares 2 on March 22nd. So I was like, you know what? Considering it comes into the week rotation, it was very much a last minute idea. I had a 1-episode LP for Super Hot VR. It started and ended on April 1st, 2021. And despite it being only 1 episode, it remains one of the fondest last-second ideas I've ever come up with. Because that was a last-second idea. I came up with that on the day. I came up with the idea, the thumbnail, the logo, the entire video, and it was probably the most skilled I've ever presented myself as. Because I not only did I play through the entirety of Super Hot VR, but I did it in under 20 minutes, and I looked really good doing it. Like, for the first 2 levels, I was on world record pace, and I've never played this game professionally. If I had to say, I don't think I'll do another April Fool's LP, because it was a last-second idea that I thought fit. And unless I get incredibly lucky twice in a row, I don't think that will be the case again. So, after that brief spell between Little Nightmares to Super Hot, then we had the most talked about LP, BioShock Infinite. I talked about that game for a long time. Unrelated and unimportant and not intentional, but incredibly cool. My BioShock 1 LP was on April 13th, 2020, and BioShock Infinite started 3 days earlier on the year. April 10th, 2021. In terms of LPs, this was my story LP. This was a lot like BioShock 2 was for me in 2020, in that it was not so much an LP that I played because I thought it would get me a lot of views, but it was an LP that I wanted to do because I was interested in the story. The entire YouTube channel gave me the ability to get this grounded platform, and also gave me the opportunity to play games that I would have never gotten around to playing, and BioShock was the biggest benefactor of that. I played the entire BioShock trilogy in April, starting in April of last year, playing BioShock 2 in January, February, March, April, May, June. I think July. April, May, June. In June of 2020. And then back in April of this year, I played BioShock Infinite. I made the intro and outro for BioShock Infinite back when I made BioShock 2. So I had this intro and outro for about half of a year. About 10 months. That's how long I had that intro and outro. And I was itching to use it. There were so many missed BioShock Infinite LPs. Kindergarten 2 was always going to be there, and the Little Nightmares 2, Battlefront, both took the place of what I was going to do BioShock Infinite. So originally I was going to have BioShock Infinite wind up as LP number 8 instead of LP number 11 that I did. I had a great time with Infinite. BioShock Infinite remains probably the most enjoyable game I have ever played on the channel. I have very fond memories of it. And despite its length, I feel like I didn't do it injustice either. I loved playing BioShock Infinite. There was a spell in the recording where I didn't record it for a few weeks, which I think you can identify which episode that happened in, because I named it Lava is Rusty, I believe. But in terms of from the start to the finish, I loved Infinite more than any other game I've done. And the only game that came close was Resident Evil 7. Now, Resident Evil 7 is a one part of a two-part story that features the sequel to that game, Resident Evil Village. And in terms of games that I have to bring up, I have to bring up Resident Evil Village because it's the only LP that I have canceled mid-project. Originally, the reason why I played Resident Evil 7 was to get to Village. And here's my thought process. When I get the enthusiasm for the RE series back, I will play Village. Absolutely. I might not do a full LP on it, but I will absolutely go back and play at some point. Because I have the game, it's taking up space, and I really want to show you guys just how good the game actually is. The reason why I left that LP is because I got burnt out at that point. That's why Resident Evil Village got canceled. But Resident Evil 7 didn't get canceled. If there was ever an LP that I was afraid would be a flop, it was 7. I did not expect 7 to be that kind of series that would be that viewed, because Resident Evil 7 is a very in-house game. You either like it or you hate it. However, ironically speaking, in terms of games that I think helped launch me, I think most of my growth this year was at 7. Playing RE7 from from June to August, I played that game. Exactly, I think it's 2 months. And that's where my views started to pick up. That's where I steadily got more and more views, and I've never really had that go back down. When I played through Resident Evil 7, it was the first LP that I fully went in on the editing. And I think that makes it so much better than what it could have been. Another thing that made it so good was the fact that I included the entire game, DLC for Not a Hero and End of Zoe as well, which I think wrapped everything in a neat bow. I think in terms of games that I am proud of, that is probably my crowning achievement right now. I think it's a toss-up between that and the Five Nights at Wario's interactive adventure thing that I made for Halloween, which I will talk about in this video as well. But yeah, Resident Evil 7 was, from an YouTube standpoint, the first time I felt like a YouTuber, like a true YouTuber, because for most of my 2020, I felt like I was new to this whole thing. And it was Resident Evil 7 where I slowly started to get into it. I started to get people who would routinely watch my videos. I started to get more and more subscribers, and everything started to get better at that point. After Resident Evil 7, I had Just Shapes and Beats. There's very little that I have to say about Just Shapes and Beats, other than the fact that in terms of filler, main LPs, it felt way more like a filler LP than anything main. I don't know if I've ever had an LP that filled that weird void like it did, but the original idea was I was going to go from RE7 to Just Shapes and Beats and then into RE8. However, Just Shapes and Beats was finished, and I really had lost a lot of my enthusiasm for RE8. So in a lot of ways, Just Shapes and Beats, if I had gone from Resident Evil 7 straight into Resident Evil 8, I guarantee you it would not have been canceled. That's almost a fact. But the way I structured Just Shapes and Beats, I would have liked to do it a little bit better. Cleaned up a little bit more of the audio. There's no real nice memories that I have from Just Shapes and Beats. It was just a game that I played. And unfortunately, that is all I have to say about it. Then we have the game that ultimately replaced Resident Evil Village, Days of Heroes D-Day, the first full-length VR LP that I did. What do I think about it? I had a blast. Oh my god, it was I had fun. The only reason I had as much fun playing Days of Heroes D-Day as I did was because I was grinding the crap out of that game when I did the Silver Soldier run. And when I finally went, screw this, I'm not going to play Resident Evil Village, it was the perfect replacement choice. Because it was, you could hear how much more enthusiastic I was about that game. I loved the idea of a Silver Soldier run. Had to do every level in that game in one life, which I did. Because Mama didn't raise no quitter, except when it comes to Resident Evil. But, yeah, it was one of my favorites. It was such a nice change of pace. In a lot of ways, it reminds me of the transition from Cuphead to BioShock, and then from BioShock to Little Nightmares. Because BioShock was one of those games that I had enthusiasm for at the start and then sort of burnt out. Cuphead was one of those that I had enthusiasm for slightly. Also, yes, I will be returning to Cuphead to do DLC Island sometime next year. Lordy. But then I sounded so much happier in the Little Nightmares, and then BioShock 2, and then Kindergarten 2. If I had to say, out of all of the games, I would probably say I enjoyed Resident Evil 7 the most. As a completed LP, it is the best I've done in a very long time. Maybe ever. Because it's a toss-up between Kindergarten 2 and Little Nightmares 1, and then Resident Evil 7. Resident Evil 7 feels like it is a proper high-quality YouTuber playing the game. And, like, that's the goal. I wish Just Shapes and Beats had the same quality level, but I just couldn't figure out how to do it. Like, the fact that I put in as much effort to Resident Evil 7 as I did astounds me. Because as somebody with ADHD, I rarely do that level of focus on anything. But, like, if I can find more of those, I feel like I could finally, like, hit a big break. And I'm even starting to. My videos are starting to be recommended to people, which was a hell of a Christmas present from YouTube. I was ecstatic because I'm now slowly gaining subs at a slightly faster rate, which is really nice. Now let's talk about games that were considered but didn't make the cut. Battlefront 2. Let's just talk about the big one, not the EA version. I'm talking about 2005 Battlefront 2. It was a crime for Battlefront 2 not to be in 2021. It's the first LP I have planned for next year after the next game after Battlefront 2 keeps getting pushed back for a few reasons. Number one, I am kind of I'm nervous because I'm really good at Battlefront 2. I love the game. I am an uber fan of Star Wars. If me playing Battlefront 1 didn't ring that bell, I don't know how I'm going to convince you otherwise. But Battlefront 2 was removed from the 2021 calendar 3 separate times. Once for BioShock Infinite. It was originally going to follow Little Nightmares 2, but then I was like, no, I need to do Infinite because I have everything for Infinite. The only thing I was missing for Infinite is the footage because I don't record these LPs all at once. It was originally going to follow BioShock Infinite because I was like, going from this to this was nice, and then I realized going from a shoot 'em up to a shoot 'em up like Battlefront, that would feel very samey. And that's one of the things I try to avoid, is I try to avoid the same game. So naturally, I went to the first-person shooter horror edition, and then it was considered as a replacement for Resident Evil Village before I decided on Days of Heroes D-Day. Finally, that was it, right? Yeah, that was it. That was it. The other game that I really wanted to play that I ultimately never got the chance to do was I really wanted to do FNAF World. Because one of the most constant things I get for questions are, I get people who ask if we can do a FNAF game on the channel. And I don't think I've done a fair bit of FNAF games. Not like early, like 2017 stuff from those years that I wish to forget so dearly. But, like an actual FNAF game. And I've come close many times to doing one. But the most consistent game that I was like, I could do this is FNAF World. Just to stick it, because I don't like being told what to do for games on my channel, because it's my baby. So FNAF World was originally going to follow BioShock Infinite before Resident Evil came into effect. So yeah. 1 second. Alright. Individual things that I have done this year that I thought were really neat. I was so proud of the Five Nights at Wario's 3 interactive story mode. I loved what I did with it. I thought that in terms of like grand old Halloween projects, that in a lot of ways it reminded me of the In Space with Markiplier and the Five Nights with Markiplier story things. Which, by the way, the former hasn't come out yet, and the Heist with Markiplier and the Date with Markiplier stuff have. But it's in the same vein as that, and I really like that. I was so proud of it, you know? Like, I was so proud to have done that level of stuff. That level of story. And it tripled. It was so many different celebrations. It was remembering my grandfather who died this year, literally a few days before Halloween, which I'm still feeling bad about that one. It was the celebration of 200 subscribers, and it was like, I think it was my 5th year anniversary on YouTube. So like that may not be an LP, but that is so much to me. There's so much there that means a lot to me. I don't really think I had a whole lot more entertaining stuff that happened this year. But like the back end of my year was really good. That period from Resident Evil to Just Shapes and Beats, that was great. So, with that being said, I am running a little bit long. Happy New Year to everyone that is a part of the community. I hope to make more friends, grow my channel to 300 subscribers by the end of 2022. Combining that with the fact that I am graduating, oh boy, 2022 could be a big year for Lava Captain 2000. Thank you everybody so much for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter if you really want to. And I haven't talked about it enough, but if you do really want to, I do have a Facebook and Instagram. I don't do much with them. I do post notifications for videos on the Facebook thing, but I don't post anything on the Instagram. I will occasionally talk to certain people that I'm friends with, but I do not post messages on Instagram. So if you want, you can follow me there. I have been Lava Captain 2000. Have a fantastic year, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Also, one more thing. There will be no video on Saturday. Tomorrow. Because I'm still on break. Videos resume Monday. Bye.